It is very difficult for an orphan to feel loved because they never experience love from a parent. You can love them and literally pour your blood, but the truth is that they will never feel loved. So I'm just setting somebody free who has been trying to love an orphan, and you're wondering, you think they are ungrateful. They are not. Just that they will never feel loved, even when you love them. As an orphan, you may never feel loved. And sometimes you can even have a spouse who is telling you the way they love you so much, but you doubt because you have trust issues. You never experience that love. So perhaps as an orphan, I think you need to accept and understand yourself and desire and work at getting the unconditional love from God.
I draw a lot of experiences from my marriage. I think there isn't anything that we cannot talk about with my wife. If I may just say this, I will deal with this later when I go back to the house. She sent me, there is something that she sent me, I think, yesterday. Let me just read this to you. That's why I'm saying I will deal with this later. If you have married a wife born between 1982 to 1992, and she's happy and contented, you can tame a lion. That is what she sent me yesterday. Yes, so I take it that I can tame a lion. I was asking her that. It means I can go to the bush and tame a lion. So what I mean is that literally everything that you do as a couple, you should be in harmony. You should be united. And as much as there are differences, we are in different professions, probably different ages. We do things differently, but there should be a source of harmony. There should be a source of unity, that the two parents are in a position to speak one language to the children. I think the other thing that I would possibly pick on this, sometimes when something happens to the children and the mother has already told them what it looks like, or has already told them that this is not right, then they would be wondering that if mommy says that this is not right, what will daddy do when he comes back? Which means that daddy will not do the opposite, but daddy is going to even make it a notch higher. If daddy is not happy about something, it means that when daddy comes back and mommy is told about the mistake that one of the children did, it means that they are not taking it very kindly. Mommy will even take it a notch higher, that I will not tolerate this in the house. So when we are talking about harmony in parenting, it means that the parents have to come to a point of agreement and be able to discuss how exactly do they want to approach issues together as parents when they're bringing up the children. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, still on harmony, just because we've grown up in a patriarchal society, where here it might almost sound like harmony is mzee amesema. So in terms of usually the man has his way in these places. So how do you juggle that in terms of maybe there are times your wife would have an opinion other than yours, and maybe in a space where the children would maybe want to pull into a different direction from yours? How do you navigate those kind of situations? Because now the children you're dealing with are at an age of high comprehension, so they can see and they can pick nuances around things. So how do you navigate that?
How we navigate that? One of the things that I would talk about is that over a period of time, one of the things that as parents we have been able to cultivate is consultation. Yes, such that when I am to make a decision, or when my wife is to make a decision, she consults. Although I know, and she also knows, that we have some points of differences, but at the end of the day, we need to come to an agreement such that our diversities, sometimes we have different tastes, we need to get to a point where we are coming to an agreement. The other thing that I would say in addition to that consultation is that when there is space for communication, it means that we can argue back and forth. At some point, we disagree to agree on later. We disagree and we don't even conclude on it, but we revisit it at some other point, so that as much as those differences are there, we have time to be able to just think about it and be able to agree. And I would say that when I talk about consultation, this is in reference to a number of things that we make consultation about. Even some of the very tiniest things that that sometimes we might think that, oh, this is a very tiny thing that I don't even need to consult about. But let me just give you an example. I think it must have been on a Wednesday. We spoke with my wife in the morning that I think we need to buy some lights for our sitting room and also the bedroom. So when she left work, she went to one of these shops that are selling chandelier lights. And then she called me and told me that I'm already here. I was actually supposed to have gone earlier, but I was late. So she called me and told me that I'm already here. What do you think about these lights? You know? But I told her, no, I can't. On what you have shared, I can't see them very clearly. I think just to make a decision so that you can buy what you think is best. But I think she was a little bit hesitant and told me that I will wait for you so that you can come, we look at these things together. So the aspect of consultation, sometimes it can get into some things that we might think are very tiny, some things that we might think are very weighty. Financial matters, for example, working on a budget or a project for a family. So consultation for me, I think, is a way in which we can deal with some of these issues. And then the other aspect that we'd also want to bring in when we are talking about parenting here is starting to get the children into the picture. I mentioned that the youngest is 7 years old. Probably at this point in time, there are some conversations that she cannot get into. But then for the older children, the one who is 17 and 16 and 15, there are conversations that they can get into, and we get to have these conversations on the table together. I would give an example of I think sometimes last year when we were thinking that maybe this time round we want to spend some time away as a family. And so my wife asked me, sir, I think we need to ask the children, where do they want to go to? We can give them options of where they want to go to. We can also ask them, how do you want to travel within the means that we have? Do you want to go by a public bus, vehicle, or do you want us to drive to that place? Do you want us to take SGR if that is an option? So involving the children in some of those conversations, I think it also gives us reflection on what are they thinking about, because they're at a point where they're also able to reason and also speak out their minds as they age. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. This is when Pastor is getting ready. I'll give Pastor some points. He'll take us through single parenting. But before we get to that, segueing to, I'll ask Dr. Rose maybe to talk to us about the change in parental dynamics. Like how has maybe you can just give us a horizon scan. What does that landscape look like right now of parental roles? And then you can also give us and then tell us about how have parental roles evolved in recent years, especially regarding shared responsibilities between fathers and mothers.
Thank you so much. It's very wide. I'll try and just make it brief for the sake of interaction. But first of all, let me say that harmony is very good, just to take it up from what Elder said. When you can be harmonious as a family, and I know many times that is what we hope for, that's the ideal, but we know that vitu kwa ground is different. Many times circumstances are that there are things you cannot agree on because you look at it very differently. And some people sometimes can get discouraged and they say, does it mean my family is damaged if we cannot agree? You know, but I want to say that it's not the disagreement per se that affects the children, but it's the way in which the disagreement is done. You know, you can respect each other, you agree to disagree. There are many things. My husband is a very agreeable person. I'm not, as you know. There are many things that we have not agreed on. And even as the children grow, they know. They can see, they know this one. If I go to mommy, I will not get. If I go to daddy, I will get. They even come and say, I know daddy will not do this, but you will do. So they know. But as long as we respect each other, even in that disagreement, because we are not the same person, we are all very different. Sometimes it can also happen that one of you maybe has reached to a point you're convicted about something. But the other one takes longer. So are you going to wait and say we cannot be an ideal family until we all agree and we're on the same page? Because sometimes the fantasy can discourage people. They just feel like, so does it mean us we really don't belong? So just to say that, perhaps now the other part you've talked about is parental roles. I liked what the pastor showed in the morning, where the Kenyan versus the Ugandan wife. And this is, all I know is that I'm not going to be the Ugandan wife. Sorry, I cannot be that one. That can never be me. Because what I'm thinking is that the only job I'm doing? If the only job I'm doing is to cook 5-course meals and kneel and serve that food, kneel 5 times, that's the only job I will do. But that's not, will I again be happy that that is the only job I'm doing? So for some people that may work, but that will never be me, okay? So again, looking at the context is everything, okay? So let me say this, traditionally, the way we know the role, we have always, maybe not known, but the expectation is that the fathers are the providers, the mothers are the nurturers. Okay? That is traditionally what we have always known. But more and more we are seeing cases whereby the fathers are the nurturers. Circumstances, for whatever reason, are that the father could even be more nurturing. For example, in my household, I believe my husband is more nurturing. And when I am harsh on my kids, they will go to their dad. Even in the morning, I saw when there was the song of hold somebody, was it something like make somebody happy? My son refused to hold me because I was firm on him. But he held the father because I told him sit properly in church. So he now decided he's not holding me. It was clear I did that. But I'm like, that's fine. You will hate me for now. But again, as we go over time, you realize that I'm trying to order you. So I'm not going to stop disciplining you because you'll be annoyed. Okay? So sometimes circumstances are that the father is more nurturing. The mother is the one who is more in the workspace because of opportunities and what have you. For me, what I see is as long as there is harmony, as long as people agree that what is it that works for us and what is the overall goal of our family. Having said that, let me say something that I've said in many places. The natural instinct of a healthy man is to preserve, provide, and protect the family. That is the natural instinct. Even when he's not in a position maybe to provide materially, he's not comfortable, okay? Because there will be moments that circumstances are, maybe you're not able to provide the way you'd want to. But are you comfortable? Like you're just comfortable, okay, there. The natural instinct of a healthy woman is to nurture, the family. Because it's mothers who carry the pregnancy, mothers who give birth, and it's mothers who breastfeed. So you're thinking about what next? What are people going to eat? But again, over time, depending on the landscape that we are living in, some of these things might change from time to time. And the question is, as a family, have you sat down? Have you agreed? Are you in agreement? Because something becomes a problem when the two of you are not in agreement or when you're comparing. Because sometimes you can be comparing with other people who have a totally different setup. Okay? I didn't introduce myself. So we have 4 children. We are raising 4 children, 3 biological, 20, 19, and close to 13. Then non-bio, 24. It's important I say that because there are people who knew me from way before. And when I say 24, they get confused. They're like, I've known you for 25 years and I didn't see you getting a child 24 years ago. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think there's something maybe I'll just contribute a bit to that. When you mentioned about harmony, I think there's, because in our household, I've been married for, we're going to year 12, huh? Yeah, we have 11 years married. But yeah, anyway, our firstborn she's 5 years old, and the lastborn is 2. But one of the things that I'm learning, because there are times we'll be like, okay, let's wait for the perfect time to align, but life doesn't really present itself like that. So I learned with the smaller things, like food preferences. My children know what I like, and it becomes a banter. It's a light thing. For example, because the majority have it in a house that fenesi is the best fruit in the world. My wife cannot stand that fruit, Yeah, but I don't find a middle ground.
Sorry, what is that?
Fenesi, jackfruit. Jackfruit. Okay, for those of you who don't know jackfruit is like a pineapple and a sweet banana had a child. Like, it's just such a sweet, So my wife, she doesn't like it. So now between my children, we're like, Mom, you're not going to take this. Like, when are you going to learn how this is? You see, it's a light disagreement, but the point about it is we've set the ground that we don't always agree, but they understand. There are times that you will like, do we go here, we go there? And some things we take a vote upon. But the thing about it is showing how we build consensus. And the times that we shift. There are things that my wife will cook, she knows, on my own, I'll never purchase that thing. But because she's cooked it, I will eat it. So the thing is, so it's just helping them, but it's always respectful. My face will not change. My mood will not change on that thing. I'm like, oh, this is what we have today, yay, and we continue. But the point about it is, it's not a thing to make a fuss about, but I'm finding that now it opens up opportunities for now bigger conversations. And when it comes to financial spends, like sometimes where are we going to go? Sometimes we have that discussion and we're already bringing them in and we hear their childish ideas and they're so simple, and many times they give us direction, because at the time we were like, really, this is actually what matters to them more. Because, for example, sometimes we used to take our children to Jaffrey's to go and play in the swings and run around. Then recently in our estate, they put up swings and slides. And that's the thing that the children are just happy to go there. We're like, so why were we driving all that way, So the thing about it, sometimes that we were doing it because we thought that this is really going to be nice. They're going to consider it a treat. But my point is, I'm just saying that maybe that's something we can add on to our arsenal of things of creating harmony. So when the bigger conversations come, now you already have a common ground and you have a formula of bringing. It's not so alien. It's not so awkward. Okay, so thank you for that, Dr. There's something else now. Moving on to, I would like Pastor to talk about something around single parents, single parenting. So, Pastor, to you. What unique challenges do single parents face in maintaining harmony in parenting?
Thank you. You would have given us opportunity also to contribute to the harmony in the family.
Sure. Go ahead, please contribute.
Because from the experiences of the experts here, we have received several items of importance that can make somebody envious, right? Now, let's also make some contribution as I come to respond to your question. For sure, even when we are Christians, we come from different backgrounds with different personalities, right? Let's use the basic personality type, sanguine and choleric. The husband is a talker, and the wife is like a tigress. How do you bring harmony between the two? She's a tigress, right? Or a lioness. And the husband, being a sanguine, keeps hugging everybody. At church, he's free to hug everybody. And the wife is so annoyed to see the husband hugging generously, but at home he is mean. Those things. Personality differences. How do you create harmony? Food types. Always people follow the food type of the mother. True? Always will go by the mother's preference. And so you grow up, ugali and managu only. But this lady comes from another area where there is no what? What do you do? So among the best practices, for example, some self-disclosure. When I returned from I had gone out for studies, I came back, I don't do rice anymore.
Same.
Even you. Oh, you see.
And chapati.
I don't do rice anymore. So when I landed, my family, I announced, the first announcement, no rice. Yet, that's the favorite of the family. What do I do? So we know how to go about that. So when it's rice time, they know what to do for daddy because he has put a curfew on rice. You know what I'm talking about? I'm pointing at her because we eat rice every other time of the day in different blend, coming in different styles. best practice is we need to agree in private before we go out in public. Whether we are dealing with our siblings, before you make any financial statement, even you go for public harambes and they're asking for how much, and you want to give an amount, you need to know that money will always bring issues. The best practice is learn to agree in private before we make public declarations. When it comes to in-laws, in-laws, and the mother-in-law is always an acid, right? How do we deal with mothers-in-law? When, elder, ordinary positions, you are the only boy in the family, and you are married to a girl who comes from, there are 11 in the family. She's the 12th one, football team. You know, decision-making can always sway. We need to learn the art of communicating in privacy before we go out in what? Public, as one of the best practices.
So, Pastor, what if, allow me to ask you a question. What if circumstances are that you're not able to agree? Because some people are not communicative. You can bring a discussion and they don't want to contribute to it. So because we are making an assumption that we will always have a discussion, some people are not able to have communication privately.
Who did you marry? Do you know the person you married?
So now this is the point. I'm already here. Just an example. It's not me. Now I'm already here. I need help. I don't need to be taken back to the accident scene. I'm here now. I need help.
Marriage is a school. We got into marriage and I didn't know this guy so well. But it's now my husband. It's my responsibility to walk the childish steps to learn, to study my spouse. It will take you time to know his favorite dishes, his favorite colors, to who influences him more. It's my responsibility as a wife, as a husband, to learn my mate. How to support her, how to accept with her, how to appreciate her. It takes time. Yeah. And that makes people envious. Why are people so cheerfully shaking hands and holding hands in public, but with my spouse, we don't? Take time to study, and study who? Your spouse. Things might change in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
now, back to the question.
About single, yes.
This is a very interesting one. Single parenting. I checked through the global networks to see trends. European countries, it's not a secret. Australia, such countries are leading in single parenting. Why? Because of government laws that allow. There are benefits if you get a child and you help them. But cutting across, in our African context, bring it home, we do not so much positively look at single parenting. True? Because culturally, we know that every time you get married, you must live together until death do you part. But this time, someone has, for one reason or the other, brought up a child. Societal stigma from the society, including church members, challenge number one. Number two area, who takes care of the libidinal urge of this sister? I'm using a big word, libidinal urge, right? You guys hold hands and talk so much. What about this single mother? Who is taking care of the libidinal urge, the need? And what do? They have other methods today, right? AI is helping them. Finances. How? If she's not in a position to earn her own money, what happens to the 3 or 4 children under her care? What about emotional challenges? Yes, care, support, appreciation is good for health, but this time, no one is there. On the flip side, men do not want to remain single. True or false? For instance, when a wife dies, 2 things will happen to the man. He will marry immediately, or his days are counted. That's why we don't have many widowers, but we have many widows. And let me mention this. If a man dies, the woman lives longer
Even happier many times.
and happier. And when
Burden is removed.
when the woman dies, the husband must remarry. So, from that A and B, who is the cause of most trouble in the family? Who? Men, I'm not against you. Peace be. I'm not against you, but you can see from the facts. So the challenges are many for a single mother or a single father. Let's begin with mothers. How can they navigate? First of all, they must be at terms with themselves. First of all is self-care. Self-care. You have so much in 24 hours. And you are the father, you are the mother, you are everything, right? 24 hours might seem too short. So point number one for you to help others, self-care is important. Number two, display genuine Christianity or genuine faith to your children. Genuine faith. Three, we are saying it's good to consult even our young people. You know, people can always get pets instead of people, right? You can get pets. Imagine a single mother with pets. That's German Shepherd, right? And a son. And you wonder, German Shepherd is sharing a bed? Huh? Has a better bed in a home. Elder, imagine. So, self-care. Find time for the kids. Social networking is important. Social networks. If you have issues of grief, find help to manage your grief. Find time with God. Once you do this, then you are able to direct your children with confidence in a balanced way. In other words, the secret of single parenting is not interpersonal, but intrapersonal. To be able to share out on the outside. Thank you.
Can I make a comment, please?
Sure.
Research shows that the happiest women are single women, especially without children. The happiest men are married men. The most unhappy women.
Yes.
Yeah, that's research. It's not me. The most unhappy
These are
women.
yeah.
The most unhappy women are married women. Let me give you a short example. One time we were talking, my son was telling me about a teacher in his school, some teacher somewhere. Then I don't know, he said something like, oh, someone said that she's in a polygamous home. And then my son said, she cannot be the second wife or the side chick. I said, why? He said, she's too bitter to be the second wife or the side chick. Asked him, why do you say that? He said, I have looked and I've observed. He said, all married women, especially first wives, are bitter. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. I said, where did you see them? He said, see, I've just seen, I've looked in church, I've looked everywhere. I'm yet to see a wife, like a goat wife, let me say, who is happy. He said, they're all bitter. I wonder whether they were born bitter. Could there be some truth in that? But that's what research is saying. Mm-hmm. He's saying it doesn't have to be that way, but that's what research says.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Pastor, is there a hope? I don't know. There may be a problem with my wife. I think she's too happy.
No. She can answer that. You can't say that for her.
That's why we said you may be making some people envious.
Yeah, you can't say that for her.
Talk, right?
No,
Thank you.
I get. Research. We've seen sometimes how research
numbers
is done.
never lie.
They never lie, but they can be skewed.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Depending on who is funding it.
Who's funding it? Yeah. So look at who was the sponsor of that research. So I would like to hear. Sorry, Pastor. Before we move to Dr. Rocco, but just I want to understand your family. What are your dynamics? How many children do you have, and how long have you been married?
3 questions in one, right?
Yes. Okay.
My wife is Betty. We've been married for more than 23 years. Our firstborn is Michael. Second, Michelle. Someone should take notes. Michael, Michelle, and Matania. We've taken Casopia, and my name begins with M. So my family names, M.
What are their ages?
Right. There is...
Mother-in-law in the house.
Mother-in-law in the making, right? Thank you. Welcome. There's 12, there's 14, and 22. There's gap in between the firstborn and the secondborn because we were all in school during that time and we had to put a break. Yes, both of them, the two are good musicians, I told you in the morning.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
yes,
for letting
yes,
us
thank
know.
you.
So, Dr. Oroko, maybe you can tell us about, introduce yourself, tell us about how long you've been married, how many children you have and their ages, before we come to you telling us about long-term parenting success. Yeah, I'll give you your question. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I wish first to thank Karen Community Church for asking me to come here and be on the panel. I've gotten used to my wife being called, and I'm always her driver. So today is different.
Where's she?
I am married to a happy wife. And she's here, Jennifer. You can stand. We have been married for just over 40 years.
Ah, she looks happy for real.
She looks happy, eh?
Happy wife. Yeah. And we have 3 children, all boys. They are all born within a week in February. So from this to the next week, they all be having birthdays. And they will be 39, 36, and 28. Both of them are living out of the country. The first one lives in America. He's married. Second one lives in Britain. He's married and has given us 2 grandchildren. They called us last evening and we were very happy. And then the last one is still single. And so any of the girls here will be interested.
Marketing.
I can talk with them. Now, I'm grateful to the pastor here who has got a good taste. You know, he just bought my tie and wore it. So I know his taste is great. First of all, I've been asked to talk about successful parenting. I think in the morning it's nice that Sister Rose says that the outcome is not ours. Ours is to do what we are supposed to do. Now, I read in one of Ben Carson's books about success in parenting, and he said, you know you are successful if you become irrelevant. The children don't need you to go on. They can live without you. Then you know you have become successful. Maybe that's one way of looking at it. Now, when we talk about successful parenting, in the Bible, when we read Proverbs 22, verse 6, what we are told to do is to train. It doesn't say teach. It says train. I'm a trainer, and I train doctors to become surgeons, orthopedic surgeons. And there are certain things that you need in training. You need a curriculum. The curriculum has a syllabus, what they must know, what must be taught. It has a way in which it is delivered. It has a way in which it's assessed. These are things about training. You must have an aim. What do I want at the end of this? For us, what we want are good citizens of this world and good citizens of heaven. So this curriculum now needs a particular way in which it's delivered. The content comes in various ways. You know, we have a culture. We grow up in a particular culture. This is what a man should become. This is what a woman should become. The culture defines that. And we are brought up in a particular way. That's one way of parenting. There's another way, which is example. You see how others do it. But we also have another way. As Christians, how do we do it? Now, when we got married, and I remember some of the gifts we got. One of the best gifts we got was given to us by the late Dr. Maragia Omwega with his wife. They gave us 2 books. This is one of them, Advent's Home. Another one is Child Guidance. We read these books and as much as possible tried to apply. This book is underlined everywhere. But I want to read from page 306. Just read 2 sentences. God himself established the family relations. His word is the only safe guide in the management of children. Human philosophy has not discovered more than God knows, or devised a wiser plan of dealing with children than that given by our Lord. So, what was given in the Bible, what God has given in Revelation, and we have as Adventists many good books. But I would say the Bible, Child Guidance, Advent's Home. There are others that we used. Maybe let me deviate a little bit, because the time we have is short. When the children were young, we used the book My Bible Friend. How many of you know that? This is something that children can learn passively. There are a lot of pictures and just a few words. That's what we used when the children were small. When they grew a bit, we did bedtime stories by Uncle Others. Also beautiful. Then we did My Bible Story. Also a good one. And then after that, we did the Bible. We used to read a chapter every evening. A chapter. And then on Friday evening, it was a very organized day. We used to have a quiz with all the children. A quiz of what we have studied in that week. And we had one of our church members was an engineer. He made us buzzers. So you would buzz, and then we know who should answer the question. So they were all very quick, they all wanted to be the first one to answer that one. So that sort of reinforced what has been taught on that week. Now, there are many things, but I think those are some of the highlights. As how do you teach young people to actually know what they're supposed to know? Let me also talk about the place of church. You know, this morning, I was glad by the young boy who preached. Did the Bible, did the children's. Now, how do you get a young boy to actually do that. A lot of work has gone behind by the parents, by the teachers, and it's a supportive environment where a child can come out and be presented in the church. My wife used to do church children ministries, used to be a director of children ministries in Scottish mission. And I think one time, one of the highlights was there was a children's program she arranged. In this program, the main preaching was done by a child, and the child preached. Then another child gave an adult story. You know, here, it is always, the preaching is always done by the pastor. The child's one is an appendage. But on this one, it was the children giving the sermon. And a child switched around, giving the adult story. So this is a very supportive environment, church, in how we can grow up our children, giving them a platform to actually grow and come out. There are many things about growing children that we can talk about. How do you choose their schools? How do you support them to be successful? Because successful here talks about all areas of life, physically, spiritually, mentally. How do they become good citizens? This is a challenge that we have. I don't think I have enough time to continue. I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Though I'll throw something at you. Something I know about Elder is, I think your son married outside, married a European, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I have two sons who have married. One married an American, a white American.
Yes, yes.
Another one married an English girl. Yeah. So both of my daughter-in-laws are white.
Yes.
Now, what's your question?
Yeah, here comes the... Thank you. Here comes the question. I feel like I'm in credit role and I'm asking the elders a question, but here we go. The thing about it is, I'm looking at this thing from how... I remember talking to one of my father-in-law, and you're telling me about the idea of marrying far. Like, yes, you can get somebody of the fear of when you let go of your daughter, that when he's giving his daughter, that she could go so far and she may not be able to see her because, yes, they're married into the faith and all this, but in that case, like, how have you navigated that space? That how much interaction do you have? Do you think that do you get my question? Like that your sons are married in a different culture, outside a different continent. Like, do you feel like they are out of reach? Do you feel like you've lost them in that sense?
Yeah. First of all, we thank the Lord. We sojourned in Britain. We were there for 22 years. Did my training there, worked there. We thank the Lord for the time that we stayed there. In the school where my children went, they were the only African children, and it was 1,500 in the school. The only place where they got African children was when they went to church. Then it flipped. Now, there is culture you can teach from home. It's the culture of interaction. So where they went to school and all that, they do not understand this thing of tribe. When you tell them somebody's a Luo, another one is what's that? They don't understand. Yeah, they know, but they don't understand that. And they found it quite easy. My son, who married an American, took some time off and went and stayed in Russia. And and then went to America for a long time, and was in a church school, and these were her friends. So anyway, how do we navigate that? For us, the most important thing was that a girl, it's a good girl, a Christian. That was the first thing. Of course, we did, and parents, we did give them advice. And my eldest son came here, and we did encourage her to look around, you know. When you go around and visit, and you come back and say, you see, that girl is a good girl. And, you know, the parents are also good. And she's good in church. She can do all this. But finally, they made their own decision. As parents, a time comes, you can give advice before they marry. When they marry, your prayer changes. The children have become your children now. No different than whether they would have come from here. Before they marry, you can give advice. But one of the things of becoming an adult is that you can make your own decision. And you allow them, having given them sufficient advice, to make their own decision. It's not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you for that. There's a question I would have. This one will go to everybody. We'll start with the Hesbon. Maybe I think we've spoken about parenting, and I'm finding that we are leaning so much on, not we are leaning, just trying to give. My question is, are there joys in parenting? Is there something that you're like, this is exciting, or are there wins, or it's just, it's persecution throughout? I don't know. Is there a joy? I'm just, for those who are looking, what's the point of getting, like, are there joys from your journey? We want to hear how has your parenting been so far? Yeah. But please, if you have questions, please write them down. We'll be ready to take them. So if you have questions, please forward them. You can also ask for a friend. I'll be that friend who will ask for. So it's okay. Just forward your questions. We would like to grow on this point.
Yeah. Let me take it this way, that our lives, I would say, probably are split into about 4 compartments, where one is about family, the other one is about work, the other one is about church, and then there is the outer space where you interact with people out there. And so if you look at it this way, when you are looking at family, and you have been blessed with children, I would say that as much as some of us may argue, or some people may argue, that there isn't a particular way of parenting. Children come in different forms, children come in different ways. And so from the book that Daktari was reading here, there are those basic tenets of how we should be managing our homes. And the joy of parenting, I would say, is that when children come in various forms, they come with different characters. The joy of parenting is when we are able to walk with them this life. My elder here has a lot more experience than I do. I think probably my experience is just about half of what he has, given his age, given the age of the children. But I would say that there are those basic things that guide us in parenting. Each and every family is unique, and the joy of parenting comes in when you are able to handle the challenges that are coming in with parenting. For example, our youngest born, he has a lot more questions than we can handle at the moment. This is because of the kind of environment and also issues to do with technology. And so when you sit back and reflect that, oh, by the way, this today, this is what he asked me. So how do we go about some of this? So the joy of parenting is being able to walk with these children, the challenges that they are having, as much as the success, or rather the outcome, we don't know what the outcome will look like, but being able to walk with them every single day. And the other aspect that we would also say is the joy of parenting. When your child comes to ask you ask a question, I think that for me is very critical, because think of it that you don't interact with your children. They don't ask you anything at all. You're wondering that, okay, so who do they seek these questions from? Like when my wife tells me that, this is what so-and-so asked me today, because she interacts a lot more with the children. So being able to spend time together, being able to walk with them, the challenges that they're having. And I would also say that the joy of parenting is to do with the company, because before our children, the three of them went to high school, I think the house was a bit more lively. We were many in the house, but now we are only three of us in the house. Sometimes by around 8, when the youngest has gone to sleep, we are wondering, okay, I think we also need to go and sleep. And you end up waking in the middle of the night. So I think just being able to together and interact with the children, for me, is really the joy of parenting. Yeah.
Maybe I can. Just a short one. There are many joys in parenting. Those of you who have not married, there are many joys. And I can give many, but let me just give one. Our children are quite musical. They play a number of musical instruments. The second one plays the violin, and they used to play in orchestras and things like that. So one time we come to Kenya on holiday, and then we think, when we go to church, maybe we can ask whether our son can play. We used to always travel with this violin. So we came, and I knew the elders there, so I called one and said, okay. So just at the, just before the sermon, he was called and gave and played the violin. I think it was number 198. Yeah. They played that. And somehow, on the day, it came out so well. And I remember the elder came and said, yeah, we want you to go and play the violin. After that, the impact it had was so much that the cousins also started playing instruments. But more than that, I believe it's the one thing which influenced the playing of the instruments in Central Church. They
Amen.
would feel that it played so much. After that, a number of children started playing the violin. There are joys that children give you, and there are many you can look at.
Thank you. I can also make an addition of one. For me, it's to see the similarities from one generation to another. Before I get to my own circumstance, let me say this. My mother and I are the same person. She says, I get her. Of course, different ages and generations, but we are just the same person. So whenever she needs something, she just says, Rose, get, and I will get exactly, what she wanted. Now, in my own family, my own marriage and children, usually what happens with your spouse, you are the polar opposites, like my husband and I, completely different. And I think there's a beauty in being different, so that then you're able to complement each other. However, there are certain things that I find in one of my children who is just like me, temperament and everything. I like to read very thick books and to talk about them. And sometimes I get random thoughts at midnight. And so I wake up in the morning and I'm telling my son, you know, there's something I was just thinking about. And when I go home, like now, he'll come and say, Mommy, I've just figured out something when I was seated in church. And he will tell me, and we go like wildfire. And we go deep and talk and talk and talk. In the family group, we are the noisemakers. We will post something, everybody else maybe reads, puts an emoji. Me and him, we just go discussion. If you look at the post, it's just me and him, we go and go. And I always say, like, if I didn't have this child who completely gets me, you know, and thinks maybe like me and likes the things I like, I think I would still just be feeling like there's just a certain aspect that I would not develop or experience fully. So for me, among many, I think that is one of the joys of parenting, getting somebody who completely gets me and who is like me. Of course, with the weaknesses as well, but they are joys.
Thank you. I can resonate a lot with that. Wow. One of my children, our children are inverse of each other. My mom, my wife and myself. So I totally see that. Could we have any questions? Written or, if they're written or, okay, we have questions. Let me pick this. Please, can I have somebody help me bring the questions to the front? Deacon, perhaps.
But if somebody has a hand.
Okay, you have a hand. If you have a hand, please also stand up. Just please stand up so that a microphone can be brought to where you are. Yes. Please stand. If you're putting your hand up for contribution, please stand so that they can bring a microphone to you. Okay. Thank you.
Old-fashioned parenting. This is me. I don't know how relevant I will be with the new Gen Zs and the millennials. However, it is a question of principle. I want to comment on the success of parenting. Let us not wait for big things. Celebrate your children's success little by little. Even the fact that he has removed or she has removed a cup from the table to the kitchen, that is great success. Celebrate it. Don't wait for them to go and sing in front like so-and-so's child and you feel good about it. No, because they will not do it. The success of the young boy who did the children's story this morning here was just top-notch. And we celebrate. As a church, we are a family to start with. So as the parent is celebrating that child, we are also celebrating the child. So as parents who are young here and who are bringing up children, we always say every step, there is success in everything. If you are looking for success in your children, you will celebrate so many of them. And you will find that actually they overshadow the bad things if you are looking for success. There are many things that children do which bring a lot of grief to the parents, even for the young ones. You know, parents, young parents, enjoy your children now. When you tell them go, they go. When you tell them come, they come. Wait until they are a little older and they start questioning. That is the time grief comes in. Even when they are young, there is grief, but don't focus on that pain that your children are. Even in church here, how many of you see the children being taken away out to go and be disciplined? Don't you see that? Yes, we discipline our children. That is grief. Then you see another child, another parent sitting there with the child composed and good. With mine, cannot even sit in church. You take that spirit home and the child is miserable and not miserable. You cannot succeed that. Parenting has challenges right from the beginning when you give birth, and it has pleasures. Pick the roses, as Ellen G. White says, pick the roses and leave the thorns alone. Because if you go for the thorns, that is what she says in Steps to Christ. If you go for the thorns, they will break you. Thank you.
Amen. There's another question. There's a hand somewhere here. On this side, brother. Please raise the microphone closer to your mouth.
Yes. How do you love your children in this age? Like, I'm still single, so I'm asking for the sake of the experience, without discriminating. You might find an A child and a D child in the same house. How do you love all of them in the same level? Thank you.
Can I take it first?
Sure.
People may disagree with me, but let me share with you the understanding I have at this point. It's a lie to say that you will love your children equally. That's not possible. It's not possible to love human beings equally. What do I mean? When you say you love them equally, you are saying they are the same and you're doing the same things to them. Like you're taking this one for shopping, this one for this and that. Actually, let me tell you, our children are very different. There is a child who has the weaknesses of your spouse. The weaknesses you have been struggling with, they trigger you differently. There's a child who is like you connect. There's a child who has your weaknesses, you are both high and you're fighting. So parents sometimes beat themselves so hard, trying to be perfect and saying, now I want to love my children equally. Personally, I believe in loving my children individually. And when they ask me, sometimes they ask, who do you love more? I say, I love all of you differently. Because there is one, if we just go to the library and read the whole day, the child feels loved. Another one, you need to take them for shopping. Another one, you need to take them for lunch. So I will not claim that I'm taking everybody for lunch, everybody for shopping, everybody to the library. As a parent, my responsibility is to understand and then to love the child individually. Secondly, you talked about performance. A lot of parents sometimes struggle. When they see a child who is doing very well, you want to identify more with the child. I believe in celebrating the process, not the result. So we are talking about what is the process that led you to the very end. When our children were in primary school, one would put minimal effort and he was always at the top of the class. Top, and there's a range, and he put minimal effort. The other one would work so hard, still be at the top, but you can actually see the effort. And when we are celebrating, I used to tell this one who works hard, I really admire your diligence, your hard work, your commitment, your work ethic. And I would say you're going places with this work ethic. And I would tell this one, you're doing extremely well. How I wish you could actually exert yourself, because I can see you're not exerting yourself. And then he would say, but Mama, you don't celebrate me when I come with 100%. My brother is coming with 80-something, 90-something. You're celebrating more. I say, no, we are not celebrating the product or the result. We are celebrating the process. And I'm encouraging you to put effort in the process, because the outcome sometimes is out of your control. And I have seen over time the one who had a work ethic, how they are able to go further with the work ethic. So I want to encourage that you celebrate the process and look at values, not the product. Because you can have the product without a work ethic, and it will not be sustainable. So what did I say? As a parent, you understand your children, love them individually, not equally. Meet them at the point of their need, because you're the parent. Celebrate the process, the journey, not the end result. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's one of the questions from the floor. This one goes to Pastor. You've discussed single-parent families. Could you also state insights on total orphan families?
Very interesting question, especially in our African context, where we expect children to have parents, and now they are not there. Usually, the challenge is networking. Who will volunteer to parent the children? Finances, emotional support, all the issues around, that is a challenge in our communities today. However, God has brought a church to be able to mother and father some of these. And who will do that? We expect family ministries, family ministries to not only look at couples in our churches. We also need to go an extra mile, not only deal with the youth and children, but bring out even orphans to be able to address their issues. That's a gap, I think, worth research, especially in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I don't know whether other churches have any program for the orphans, but that's an area which we can all explore to help our people fit in the family of God.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Because you may be having somebody who is an orphan, maybe they are now grown and they were orphans. It's a big challenge because when children are young, the way they experience God is the way they experience their parents. So as a child, when you don't have a parent, God is likely to be very distant from you. That's the way you experience God. He's not distant, but you experience that he's very distant. It is very difficult for an orphan to feel loved because they never experience love from a parent. You can love them and literally pour your blood, but the truth is that they will never feel loved. So I'm just setting somebody free who has been trying to love an orphan and you're wondering, you think they are ungrateful. They are not. Just that they will never feel loved, even when you love them. As an orphan, you may never feel loved. And sometimes you can even have a spouse who is telling you the way they love you so much, but you doubt because you have trust issues. You never experience that love. So perhaps as an orphan, I think you need to accept and understand yourself and desire and work at getting the unconditional love from God. Knowing that God is there and he loves you unconditionally. That even when you feel like people don't love you, you need to remind yourself, I'm feeling this way because I didn't have parents. But it is not true that people don't love me. Because you can come to church as an orphan. The church can have fantastic programs. And you will do all those, but the person will still not feel loved. So it is important for someone to just say, I'm feeling unloved, not because people don't love me, but because the very people who are meant to give me unconditional love, they didn't give me. So it is not true that people don't love me. Let me accept what they are giving me with thanksgiving. Because sometimes, as an orphan, you can also be entitled and not have gratitude. This may sound harsh, but I have experience. I've raised orphans, and we have had this conversation. That somebody feels entitled and ungrateful. That sometimes you buy, if you're raising them with your children, you'll buy them a dress, alone because you're feeling, oh, if I don't buy for them, maybe the money wasn't enough. If I don't buy for them, they will feel it because they are an orphan. You buy for them and they say, so they are discriminating me. They are buying for me because I'm an orphan. You don't buy for some reason, I tell you, for some reason, maybe whatever you found, you didn't find what fits them. So you buy for another child, they'll say, oh, if my mother was here, they would have bought for me. So they haven't bought for me because I'm an orphan. Then you get frustrated because you're really trying and you blame yourself. So I want to set you free. It's not your fault. You can only do the best that you can, and the outcome is not in your hands. And as an orphan, accept the help with thanksgiving and know that nobody will ever replace your parent. Nobody whatsoever. And accept that gap is there. It's only God who can meet you at that point of need. But no human being can ever claim to do that. They can't.
Okay. We've got 3 questions coming your way, but actually, let me let you process them. As I share this to pass, this one, let me give this to Elder Hesbon. Please share your thoughts on the latest trend of parenting called gentle parenting. Have you heard about that? Have you?
Gentle parenting?
Gentle. Oh, okay. Maybe okay, if you want to pass on that, I can give you another and switch it to the Rose. With Dr. Rose. Maybe you can tell us about, based on your children, does the road of correction, that is Kiboko, still work in this day and age? Would you recommend it in a way for disciplining children? Elder Husband, you can talk about that one. So.
Okay. Yeah, so when we are talking about gentle parenting, I want to believe that what the question is referring to is being able to have a discussion with the children, being able to talk with the children, because a number of us, probably my age and those who are older than me, and Elder Diero was talking about this earlier during lunchtime, that he was brought up in a military camp. So when we are talking about gentle parenting, I know I also want to give a situation whereby sometimes back in our education system, there was corporal punishment, but that one is not there anymore. So when we're talking about gentle parenting, it's I believe that it's about being able to understand the children and also bring them on the table to be able to discuss issues affecting them, not taking it that, because there is that authoritative parent, there is the one who is authoritarian. The authoritative parent will do their work very well. They don't have to force it. The authoritarian word, his word is law. You don't have to argue with that kind of parent. There is the permissive parent who allows the children to do whatever they want to do. It's a yes parent. Whatever you say the child wants to do, they want to eat. Whatever they want to eat, you will allow them to eat. Wherever they want to go, you'll allow them to go. Then there is the detached parent who has no idea what is happening in the lives of their children. So when we are talking about gentle parenting here, it doesn't mean that you'll allow the children to do what they want to do, but you will bring them on the table. Like I gave an earlier example that you ask the children, the ones who are 15, 16, 17 years old and above, they also have a thought of their own. They are able to make decisions. So you ask them that, what do you want us to do in this? And then you should be able to guide them. Because when you do 1, 2, 3, these are the consequences of such a decision. So being able to sit with them on the table, discuss with them, but being able to guide the process so that you don't let them go completely off outside your control, but you bring or rather inform them of some of the consequences of the decision that they are making. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, wait, let me go to Elder Rocco. Maybe Dr. Elder, to what extent should a parent dictate the kind of friendships their children should form, especially when younger? Should a parent dictate at all in terms of choice of friends for your children?
Well, difficult question. But I think there are a number of things here. You can dictate in different ways. Dictate by choice of the people that they will meet. This may involve which school they go to, involve the church, and involve the friendship, the people that they visit. You can, we have chicken here. You can have free range, and you can have others which are, we have, my brother knows. But can we raise our children as free range, roaming anywhere where they want to go? I don't think so. As Christians, it's important for us to set certain boundaries. Now, having done all that, a time comes, now maybe I can say that because I've had children who have reached that stage. A time comes when children now want to have friendships. We have had such a relationship with our children where we can discuss, we sit down and say, but this one, or should you not look elsewhere? And maybe we have been guilty sometimes of trying to identify and saying, but actually, you see, even when we were in church, you see, that girl, I think is very good, actually. Why can't you, things like that. So I don't know. I think we should have a relationship with our children where we can discuss with them. Our children should be comfortable talking to us about their relationships and things like that. Now, they, at the end of the day, should have, what did we study today? Free will what? What was that in the lesson? Defense. Free will defense. The Lord has allowed us to make our own decisions. We should also allow our children to make decisions, but we should guide them. I think it's important. And for the children here, it's important also to listen to what your parents say. I see Isaiah there was my classmate in high school. So you might know this story, but you should keep quiet. So for instance, I had a girlfriend, and I was quite, and it's not Jennifer, and I was quite happy with her, but one day my father told me, no, not this one, without giving any reason. I stopped. I've never been able to give a reason. It took me some years before I then got a Jennifer. I don't know how our life would have been, but I'm happy with the one that I have. I don't know what the alternative would have been. So I think also for the young ones, your parents have the best, in their mind. They want the best for you. They also have experience. What you are experiencing now, they experienced many years ago. Especially again, if they are God-fearing parents. It's good to take into account what they tell you when they guide you. Don't just say, I'm an adult. I can make my own decision.
Okay. Rose has got a battery of questions addressed to her.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I have a few questions. However, I want to comment about gentle parenting. Gentle parenting is not actually godly parenting. It's parenting whereby the children are the ones who are the leaders. They are the ones making decisions. In our local context, we can call it the kadadi kamami kind of thing, whereby whatever the child wants goes. And that is not godly parenting. Because parents are to be the leaders. Their children, their frontal lobe has not matured. They are children. So there's a reason as to why they are children. They cannot vote. They cannot be allowed to have an ID. They cannot drive. So even the government knows that. They are not safe going to the road. So how can they then be safe making decisions governing their life? So gentle parenting, I want to say, I don't want to call it demonic, but it's not godly parenting. So the other question linked to that was on the question of the road. And I know that that's a very sensitive topic, but let me say it this way, and I know some people will try and say, oh, the road was meant to keep the sheep safe by chasing away predators, whatever that is. But this is what I believe, that the road is to be used sparingly by only the parent. On a child with 0 to maybe less than 7 years, because beyond that, it introduces shame to the child and rebellion. And in what instances, when the parent is not angry. Because many times we use the rod to displace our anger on the children. In what other context? If there is willful disobedience. Like you have guided the child, you've told them to do this, and they willfully disobey. However, the parent should not be angry at that time. They need to cool down their anger, and they need to have conversation with the child. The one time that I had to use the rod on my son, he banged the door on the dad. He was trying to say something. Then I don't know, the father was saying, wait, I'm coming to give you whatever he was asking. Took that door, he banged it. Now, I had not spanked that child. I can't remember. But I took that child. I took the muiko and I said, come, we have to have conversation. Because for me now, this is an issue of life and death. Because what you're doing, you are rebelling against authority. What that means, regardless of what that authority is, the child is going to defy authority outside. And what will happen to them? Death. They will die because they will go against the law. They will be shot or something. So from that context, I said, son, we have to talk. I said, now what you have done, you've crossed the line. And we have to have a conversation. And we did have the conversation. Because I said, you know what? I love you and I cannot watch. I'm not even waiting for your dad was showering or something to come. This one, I'm dealing with it. And I prayed. And later on when he said that the most painful thing was the prayer. Because I did pray, I say, God, I'm not perfect. So even as I'm doing this because I love the child. So later they were saying the most painful thing was the fact that I prayed before and after, and I used that whatever, and I've never had to do it again. Okay? That is when the child was younger. Now, I said only the parent. I said not when they're angry. And I said when there is willful disobedience. You have communicated, the child has willfully disobeyed, and they know. You have already said, if you do this, now this one will not fly. Now, people view it very differently, but for me, that's my belief. Now, the other one, I will comment them before I leave, is somebody has asked a question. In today's world of hyper-independence, what's the benefit of marriage, especially for women? So already, the word used there communicates to me that this person is coming from a place of pain and trauma, because they're saying hyper-independence. We were never created to be to be independent, let alone to be hyper-independent. We were created to be interdependent. We depend on each other. You cannot do everything. It almost sounds like, the way the Bible talks about Lucifer. I will go up and do everything. So the world might have fed us this. And also we are coming from a place, maybe we saw our parents, our mothers, let me be specific, slave and die at a very early age or live with disability because they slaved. And I do understand, if you're coming from a place where you saw your mom and dad, both left work. Maybe your mom did more intense work. Maybe they are a nurse and they did back-breaking work. And your dad was seated on a chair that was, rotating chair. The moment they get home, dad sits on the sofa with the newspaper reading Digger Classified. The mom goes to the kitchen, makes tea, serves him. The dad is waiting and they're just making orders. Dinner serves him. Mom is preparing the kids, doing everything, and she's extremely exhausted. If you came from that home, you will be very traumatized. Because you look at your mother, you're like, I'm not going to be that. But I want you to understand that you're coming from a place where the modeling you observed is not godly modeling. So that instills some fear, some trauma in you, and you said, I will never be my mother. So you came out, you said, if it's buying this and doing this, I will do it so that I don't need a man. But I want to say that marriage is not about the material things. Yes, they're important, but the benefit of marriage is companionship. It's love. It's mutual support. And I would want you to ask yourself, if you're saying that you're hyper-independent and you don't need marriage, how are you going to have your sexual needs met? Have you figured that out? If you want to have children, how are you going to have that? As you grow older, as God wills, will you need a companion to be there with you by your side? Have you figured that out? Everybody I've come across, ladies, who has said that they don't want to get married, they're coming from a place of pain. For me, I'm yet to meet somebody who is not coming from a place of pain. So I would want instead to just say, please consider what's the pain, because you need to heal that pain so that then you can look at marriage in a more holistic, balanced, and healthy way. Otherwise, you come with this attitude to a marriage, even when you meet a good person, you will sabotage that marriage. Yeah? The other one, I think Pastor will respond. It's on a lady saying she has met a young man who he's good, he's a Christian, he's a good Adventist, but he's anti-Trinitarian. Is that something they can compromise?
Seventh-day Adventism, as of today, has 8 different branches. Seventh-day Adventism has 8 different groups within it. Among the areas that offer differences, one has to do with Trinity. 2, understanding of tithe. 3, spiritual prophecy. 4, sanctuary. 5, drums and music. Dress, gear, and removing of shoes. They go to church, they remove like a mosque, and they put on turbans on the head. 8 different. categories. So, are you sure you are in the right one? The one who asked. Imagine we have 8 of them, and we are picking this and that and that and that. When it comes to doctrinal differences, that's a very dangerous area for friction. Dangerous area for friction. If you are on parade, we'll say, change your steps. You know that one? In pathfinding, do what? Change your steps. Everything else could be right, but when it comes to doctrinal differences, that's where you have your connection with God because of your belief system. Now that somebody has a different one, it might cause a lot of injuries in your home. Reconsider your position.
Okay, Pastor, this being the last question before. Okay, I'll let you have a light round of quick fire. Pastor, maybe you can just say something, speak to something about community's involvement in family, in supporting the family. Like, what is the role of the rest of the congregation and our interaction when it comes to harmony and supporting families?
There are many responses to that, but I would want to narrow down to the family. Let me still put that mother, father, and the children. If there is harmony here, even when it comes to the larger church, the child will do things that they learned from home.
That's true.
If there is discipline in the home, there will be discipline in the church. Let me help the deacons and deaconesses. Why should you take hold of my child and take my child there when I'm seated here? It is my responsibility because we have the channel of communication. We have our system of disciplining, all right? But the moment I relax on that and let the church leadership take care of the discipline on my child, I have missed a point. They should only augment, but when it comes to standing in it, it's my responsibility. And so my challenge comes, what values have I imparted to my children when it comes to church etiquette? When it comes to meals up there? Are my children the first ones on the line? Are they the ones eating without prayer? Do I have those values in my children so that when they come out in public, they're actually displaying that which is at home? So I'm putting it first where? In the family. Family at home, family in the area. So harmony, we might have differences in opinions when it comes to public arena because many people here do not subscribe to my disciplinary measures, right? They have theirs. And we might have conflict. So can I stick to mine and ensure that my children perpetuate them? Self-disclosure. My children have grown up knowing that they sit with mommy and daddy in one place. Even when we go to church, they just know it. That's ours. We sit together. And no one moves out even without permission. Daddy, I want to, please go. Even when it's obvious. But they need to talk to daddy, need to talk to mommy. They have that type of discipline from the house. So when it comes to church, we see them seated and other parents ask, how did you work it out? That is ours in the family. And if that's true for all our families, then we will not have people throwing stones in the general public. Because it begins where? It comes to church and 6 days, where are they? In school? No, in school. If they're not here, they're in school. So we are going to discipline the community when we discipline our own homes and children. Thank you. That's one of them. Okay. Somebody could add on the next one.
The nuclear, the community in the way we bring up children. However, a practical example or an advice that I could give the church, especially those ones who are young, in caring, we support each other. That is why I belong to the church. This is my family other than my nuclear family. In parenting, we have problems right now because the way I parent my children is very different from the way Ted will parent his blessed 2 children. The standards are different. We tend to prescribe to these, what did you call it?
Gentle
Gentle.
parenting.
So my advice is choose your friends so that your children can have their friends with a family that subscribes to the same standard of parenting.
Thank you. Now we're going to the last parting shots from Elder Hesbon. Coming this way.
Thank you very much, Ted, and thank you very much, brethren, for this time that we have had to share together. I know that time is very short. We could have had more discussion around this because this is an area that really gets deep into our nerves when we are talking about families and the challenges that we have in the families. But I just want us to reflect back on the song that I think we sang that song twice earlier today, song 652. Song 652 says that, stanza 3, Jesus makes me wholly thine, then there is love at home. May thy sacrifice be mine, then there is love at home. Safely from all harm, all rest, with no sinful care distressed. Through thy tender mercy blessed, when there is love at home. So we have challenges, and it's Jesus who is able to grant us the wisdom and knowledge to be able to address the issues that we have. We have a number of issues. We may have just discussed a few of them here, but I want to believe that God, as a church, God will be able to grant us knowledge and wisdom that we'll have more of these sessions to be able to share together, to be able to share our experiences, to be able to teach even those who are the younger ones. You can see from the questions, some of the questions that have been asked, or some of the issues that come up. Some people have given up because those who are in marriage want to get out of it, and those who are not in it want to get into it. I want to pray that God will grant us an opportunity as a church to be able to have the wisdom and knowledge to address the issues that are affecting us, that as families, we will be all walking together to heaven. May God bless you.
Thank you. Your parting shots?
Yeah. Thank you very much for this important session here. There are a number of issues which are important. One of them is culture. Is our culture bad? How do we bring up children? You know, there's another culture. We go to school and we're exposed to a Western culture of doing things. So some of the things that are written as Christian, in Christian books, are actually cultural, not found from the Bible. I personally believe that our culture is good. And of course, there are certain things which can be changed. But in as much as when it is not different from what the Bible has said, it's okay. But when it goes against the Bible, of course, we take what is in the Bible. Now, we have another problem. How do we raise up the boy child in a feminized society? Now, as we grow up, the kind of things that even the education system is, it doesn't really encourage boys to be boys. The boys then are given what is boisterous, words which are now, negative. How, in bringing up a child, how do you make, like when our children didn't grow up in Britain, we don't have shambas there. They don't have cows to go and take care of. The work at home is in the kitchen. It is working down. How do you encourage them? Cooking and things like that. Our girls want men. They don't want other women. They don't want boys who have been grown up as girls. How do we make the boy a boy? And I think this is something which is lacking even in our churches. We should have programs to encourage the boy to understand leadership, to understand vision, to understand what they need to be. I think that's an important thing in parenting, and we can do it as families, but also as church. Finally, I talked about a curriculum. In curricula, we have what is formal. That's what I talked about. But we have informal. Informal is where you see what your trainer is doing, the attitudes they have, the decision-making process. So as parents, because we're talking about parenting, it's not enough to teach the theory. The children look at what we do. And therefore, it's very important for us to develop personally so that what we want of others, we may become. You want others to be Christians, you need to be, so that when your children look at you, they want to be like you. The informal curriculum is an important component of parenting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So mine will give a challenge as regards to what Dr. Oroko has said, then I give my parting shot. I want to challenge this church to come up with conversations and programs when it comes to raising boys. Our world church has recognized that gap. When you look at the family ministries booklet for 2025, one of the topics we are meant to handle, because many times a lot of choristers are girls. So it happens that we will just do what we know. So a lot of them are feminized. It makes the boys feel like they have no place. Our programs in pathfinding, in adventuring, ambassador, how many men are in the team as teachers, and what programs, how much of them appeal to the boy child. The problem is so serious that even in marriages, actually, there's a heavily reduced sexual intimacy happening in marriages. Because what is happening is a lot of men have been quite feminized. And what happens is that the women resent these men because they are not experiencing them as being masculine. So they resent and they don't feel romantically attracted. And many women will tell their husbands, especially younger generation, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I love you as my brother, but I don't feel. A lot of women think that they have a sexual problem, but they come to realize they don't, just that they are not romantically attracted to their husbands. People are nodding there. Yeah, because they are not experiencing them as men. The problem is so serious. There's very minimal sex happening in a lot of Christian marriages, you see, because of that and other dynamics. I would have gone deeper, but there's no much time. But I just want to challenge the church that it's a real issue that I think we need to consider. Now, the other one is on my parting shot is somebody has commented that one of the joys of parenting to senior parents is parental allowance. And I think that is very important. They are saying it on a lighter note, but I think it's on a heavier note. So, parental allowance. When your children give you money, in short. When your children give you money. So let me tell you, your children will give you allowance as per what they see, the way they see you treating your own parents. So if you're seated here and you're living a life when your parents are struggling in the village, you're modeling to your children how you neglect parents, and they will neglect you, okay? A few years ago, I started doing a big project for my mom. So what I did, because I knew that I want to model to my children how I want them to take care of me, even if I think I'm very independent. So I roped them in the program. And they contributed money, including my baby, contributed part of his offering into building for my mom. And I included them in the program, organizing, managing the accounts, everything. We would go supervise the project. And we saw the project come up, massive project. And I would talk about, how it has been with a lot of joy. Fast forward, 2 weeks ago, my son did a project and he got money. He's still young, he's 20. And he said, Mama, I want to give you some money. You go and buy kitenge because I see you like kitenge. I want you to have 3 outfits and also myself. So, and then he kept saying, will they be ready by Friday? In my mind, I didn't know that Friday was yesterday, which was Valentine's Day. I said, I don't know whether I would have gone, bought the fabric and it would be ready. He said, no, I want to know, will the outfits be ready by Friday? I didn't get it. I said, no, I will see. Anyway, I delayed. So eventually I got the outfits. Now, when my son gave me money to go and buy outfits for myself, I experienced immense joy. Even if I think I'm adequately equipped to take care of myself. But I felt so happy. And I said, you mean that is how it feels? And how did he know? He had experienced me sacrificing, breaking my back literally, to enable my mother to live a life of dignity in her golden years. And we were talking about it. And I was saying, I'm the strength of my mother. She doesn't have a back, I have a back. So let me break this back. It's for a time, and she will live a life of dignity as she enjoys her golden years. So really, that's a joy. And I'm just saying this to encourage you as a younger person. When was the last time you sent your parents some money to buy something, to buy matumbo, to buy sugar, to buy something? It's not about the amount, but it's the thoughtfulness and the fact that you can realize you're the strength of your parents. So that truly is a joy. And I'm a happy mother today. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I'll just say a few things before I hand it over to Pastor to give his parting shot and to close us out. I think there's a lot that is underestimated from the power of community. I'll tell you a testimony of... I've grown up in the church. My father became polygamous, so he stopped coming to church. And in that what would have been a vacuum, just because of having proactive men in the church, who stepped into that gap. I got parented by many elders, brothers, and other people like that, just in the church. And because of this is a thing that I'm just going to add this to some other thought about. Today, Dr. Rose is wearing the cap of a coach, in case you notice that she's a psychiatrist, but one of the things that we riff with my friends, and maybe she can correct me in the event it is wrong, is I think society needs more coaches than it needs psychiatrists. You see, a lot of things that are happening is people are being brought up to a place that, fine, you've got the money, then what? Then what you start, people start looking for other vents that they don't have, The idea of if it is modeled to you, expect this, it is coming. That's what a coach does. That if you look at even the winning teams that we have going around, actually the losing teams, people in those teams are not committing suicide, they're not on antidepressants, but because their mind is kept clear about what they're building towards, In these other cases, church also have seen a lot of that kind of model. Fine, there have been many losses in church, but over time they became wins because they've been slow builds, So there are things that you might have prayed about this now, 2 years, it's not come through. But when it comes through, you see where God was building you towards. But a lot of these things were modeled. And I think it is also good for us to share, I mean, church being a safe space of, let us being able to share some of these wins that we have, Whether it is, I have realized that actually there's a hack in eat this meal, this meal plan exercise, you're struggling with this is how to go about it. Instead of just keeping quiet about these struggles. My child is so restless, how do we go about this? Being able to just share and point out those pitfalls or encouragement, celebrate the wins as well. Oh, today your child thought, oh, that was amen. So it helps people to be able to grow in those other spaces. But these are things that we all work on together. When somebody is working on something at home, and sometimes they come to church and it is undone, because sometimes it is like, so leo amekuja church late. First of all, akuwa anakuja kanisa. You get what I mean? So being able to just make church, being able to simulate those, and it should be an environment that at least we're able to encourage people as they're making their steps to grow and reach where God would want us to be.
Yeah, maybe a clarification. My area is psychology. Not psychiatry.
Sorry,
but you are not very far. Just a clarification.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for that. Okay, over to you, Pastor. You can close us out.
Can you say a big amen to our panelists, friends? Oh, you want to clap? Is that it? Or you can do better? Allow me make my parting shots with some preamble on marriage and technology. As opposed to us who lived earlier days, born in between 1945 and all the way up to 1990, our generation is now, the young people in our hands are very different in terms of environmental influences. You might have heard of AI church. I read about that many more times. You might have heard of AI God. The God you worship, that's the argument. If I want, is slow to respond to prayers. But the AI God is instant and directed. That's where we are right now. How will our generation now, our children, come over to know the Yahweh you know about? In the same limelight, it's not an issue for people to remain single. In terms of taking care of your sexual needs, you know, don't you, how to take care of your sexual needs? You don't need a human being. That's an argument. And it's being practiced. It's not a secret. We have sexual machines and tools with us, don't we? Don't we? We do. Oh, they are not saying we do. They're holier. These are holier guys. But machines are now in existence. And girls are remaining single. They are avoiding men, but they have robots as husbands. How would you want to deal with that issue as a church? How would you want to deal with our boys who have females who are machines? It is something that's now right on our minds. How would we deal with that? While you are still wondering, come over with me to see how we're going to be at the intersection of cultures. We want to spank the Generation Alpha. They'll soon be in the university. Will you spank them? Generation Alpha. And now this year we began, according to them, Generation Beta. How are we going to instill our values in these who are now 15 years younger, all 15 and below? So your generation, you can still talk about God and the Bible, but this generation that you are going to bring forth, and 2.5 million are born each week. How are we going to deal with that generation? That will be a talk for another day. May I challenge you, dear friends, again with the writing here. I'll read that last. Well, I challenge our church. Do you think it's possible for us to prepare our young men and women for marriage? Could it be an intentional move that every church becomes a training center to prepare our young people to navigate through the current challenges? That would be a good idea. To brag a little bit where I come from, Uganda. The queen of the Baganda has a specific program for all girls in secondary schools. During the break, she calls them together. Chisakate they call. And there they are given values to navigate through the challenges today. But that's from the cultural point of view. What about Christians?
And the boys in Uganda, are they given the same?
Now, the aunties do that for the boys. Yes.
Aunties, not uncle.
Aunties. So when you go there, we'll ask them. But I'm only giving you, that is a scenario. Boy, girl, it's more of the girls because of the nature of the cultural norm there. They love girls so much. Now, How do we prepare our own boys today? It's a challenge you raised. Could we be intentional in preparing our young people? Then in the family ministries, your job has begun. We have a whole curriculum to help our young people. Number 2 area. Although we're in the church, but you realize and you agree with me that our women, our mothers are suffering in Christian homes. Yes?
Yeah, that's true. A lot.
Let's ask the men who are listening today to be models and mentors of our young people. Not by what you say, but by what you do. That will save. Leave alone the formal education we have. We have the informal, University of Texas, where we see and do. It's much more than what we are told. Friends, our world has now changed. Parting short here is to go into animal. The last one here before I get into animal kingdom. Adventist home, page 15. Society is composed of families. And it's what the heads of families make it. Out of the heart are issues of life. And the heart of the community, of the church, and of the nation is the household. The well-being of society, the success of the church, the prosperity of the nation depend upon home influences. We charge all of us who are in charge of homes, make that home not like any other. How will you make it? Go down on the same page. Home should be made all that the word implies. It should be a little what? A little what? Heaven upon the earth. The elder underlined that. And that's what I had in mind to make parting short. A little heaven. A place where the affections are cultivated instead of being studiously repressed. Our happiness depends upon this cultivation of love, sympathy, and true courtesy to one another. In closing, let's go to animal kingdom. Of all the animals, I've mentioned about the fox, I've talked about the python, I've also talked about the giraffe. Let me finish with the elephant. The elephant's gestation period is how long? 702 years. 2 years. The gestation period of elephants, 2 years. When EDD comes, EDD, the matriarch takes the heifer because in their family, lineage is matriarchal, not patriarchal, unlike the Leonine family. So the heifer is taken into exclusion. The mother reaches a bush, she clears the home. What's that moment for? The matriarch will download survival skills into the daughter. When to mate. Again, when to mate into the girl. Which type of food to eat. Drinking times. How to communicate to members of the family. And you see, elephants communicate with decibels below the human range of hearing. All that is communicated to the daughter. When a calf is born, how to take care of the calf, it's now the responsibility of the heifer to ensure that what she was taught is practiced in the family. No wonder the bull will be in front, the mother, the matriarch will always be in front, not the men. And they always put the baby in the middle. What a lesson for humanity today. How is the family? Is it knit together? Is the father still responsible? Or the father earns so much and does not give to the wife? It is our responsibility to learn from the elephants, how they perpetuate morals in the family. For us human beings, it can be both mom and daddy. But from the animal kingdom, you can see how the mother does it. Would you prefer matriarchal or patriarchal lineage?
Both.
Human beings, we need both, because that's our responsibility. Thank you so much. Thank you for attending our session. God bless you in Jesus' name.